If you are comfortable today with what you were comfortable with yesterday, you're already in trouble. Nobody ever went uphill by accident. You have to be intentional with what you do and who you are. The more valid reasons you have to accomplish a dream, the higher the odds are that you will. The first question is your dream really your dream? And that's where we start, Ed. Because can I tell you something? If your dream isn't really your dream, ain't going to work.
Yep.
So what I tell people all the time is we start off our life living someone else's dream, probably our parents. So what happens is a lot of people as adults, they never switch.
So true.
And so they're still living someone else's dream. They're putting on someone else's armor, and they just aren't going to achieve because it's not who they are. It's not their dream. So I think a lot of times we have clarity on where we should go, but there's a lot of emotion that holds us back.
Sure.
So what I did, and I think this is what will be really, hopefully this will be helpful to you. Whenever you're making a transition that's kind of out of your strength zone, or certainly brand new like this was, I ask a lot of questions and I listen. And so I just sit down with people like you that are highly successful in business, and I say, okay, let me ask you some questions. And I go and I'd ask you questions I learned from you, and I'd take a lot of notes, and I'd pull away and say, okay, now this is how Ed did it, and this is what Ed thinks, and I think I could apply this there. And I spent 3 years humbling myself and being very teachable and saying, I just want to learn, I just want to learn. Because I knew that I had the leadership principles, but principles that are good without application or connection are principles that aren't going to work for anybody. I'm responsible, Ed, to move on what I see today. There's a whole bunch of people, they're wanting to hold and not move because they don't see 3 days, 5 days, 2 years out, whatever. And what I'm saying is, it's kind of like the lights of a car. If I go to the parking lot at night, turn on the lights and say, oh my gosh, I can't go, right? I don't see my house. Well, no. Get in the car and start moving in the direction you're supposed to move it. And guess what? You only get about 300 feet of light.
Right.
You don't get you don't get 7 miles of light.
Good.
You don't get to see your house. You've got to utilize the light you got
gosh.
so that you can get to where you want to go. And so many people, they're
So
uncomfortable with that light.
Yes.
Because it's not long enough. And what's around the corner? And the whole issue is you don't know what's around the corner until you go around the corner.
Oh gosh, that's so good.
And so you just so you have to be very comfortable, which I am. You have to be very comfortable with traveling, not having all the answers.
So true.
But can I tell you something? The only way you get all the answers is to go all the way through.
Absolutely.
You don't get all the answers on this side. And so if I've got to have it lined up and straight and right, and I feel comfortable with it, then I'll never be the leader. And I really believe this, Ed. I believe a lot of leaders fall short because they're unwilling to take what they know now and act on it. And so therefore, they never get to know what they could know. No matter how gifted you are, no matter how committed you are, if you're out of position, you're not going to be successful. That's why everybody needs to find their sweet spot. What do I really do well?
Yes.
And on that, there's a point that I really want to make, and that is, I tell people, if you want to be highly successful, you've got to get into what I call the top 5%. So you got 100 people. You've got 100 people here in whatever chosen profession you got. You've got to be in the top 5.
Yes.
You've got to get there. And you can only get to the top 5 if you're in your sweet spot. You can't get to the top 5 working on weaknesses. You can't get to the top 5 if I'm not in the area of my giftedness. So you've got to find out what you're good at, because that'll give you, if you're committed and if you got good strategy and all this other, you got a good team around you, then that'll allow you to get in that top 5. And once you're in that top 5%, you're in good shape. You're going to do very well. And I tell, and that doesn't matter what your profession is, you've got to get in the top 5%, and you can only get in the top 5% if you're in your position, if you're in your sweet spot.
Got a question for you.
Yeah.
What would your advice be to me about just transforming my life? What would be the step you would take, the thought I should have, the action maybe I should take?
If you really want to be transformed, you have to live an intentional life. This is so simple, I don't want you to miss it. Most people don't lead their life, they accept their life. And when you accept your life, you are living on things that are not worthy of your time and effort. The reason I want you to understand that is, to go uphill, you have to be intentional. Nobody ever went uphill by accident. You've never read a book on accidental achievements. You have to be intentional with what you do and who you are. So I would just say to you, find your strengths, become very intentional, and commit your life every day to it's all uphill. It's all uphill. And listen, Ed's very successful. He's got great businesses, he's made a lot of money. Can I tell you something? It's still uphill for him. See, the great mistake we make is we think, I'm going to go out and make enough money, and there's a day when I can relax and I can rest and everything's going to be easy. Can I tell you something? The day that you have that day, one of your children, gets in an accident, the problems will never, ever leave you. Issues, obstacles, difficulties, they're always going to surround you. So you never get to that place where you've got it made. You're not supposed to got it made. You're supposed to add value to people, and it's all uphill. So the moment I understand that, then what happens is I commit myself to it, and then it becomes a beautiful uphill climbing. Like, there's one thing that's beautiful about going uphill is the scenery is really good. So you got to be intentional with it. So that's what I would say to you. Be intentional. Start today. And here's here's the difference. Good intentions are overrated. Gosh. I know so many people, I'm going to do that. Yes, I think that's a good idea. I think I want to do that. So, okay. Good intentions are it's the most overrated phrase in the world. You've got to go from good intentions to good actions. Nothing happens until you've got good actions, and you won't have good actions until you're intentional with your life.
Tough times build tough people. The adversity, the challenges, the success that we want in our life, it comes from it. It comes from that adversity. It comes from the scrapes. It comes from the bruises. It comes from the moments where you said to yourself that you didn't think that you were going to make it, just for you to make it through the situation and not even realize that you just overcame that. It comes from that.
That just because shit gets hard, like just because things don't go your way, doesn't mean that you quit. You quitting is a contradiction to your very existence, because you weren't born a quitter. In 2014, I was executing a training exercise with my team. A simple exercise that we had all done. And a part of that exercise is the completion of an obstacle course. Now, like I said, we had all done this before. So as we traversed through the obstacle course and got to the very end, there was only one thing that we needed to do, and that was just climb a rope. Now, just like what I said, we had all done this before, so a simple task as climbing a rope would be nothing for us. I approached the rope and began to climb like I don't know what happened. I don't know if the ropes were new, I don't know if I was just fatigued, but for some reason, as I got halfway up there, I came back down. Thinking nothing of it, I shook my arms out and began to climb again. And just like last time, I got halfway up there and for some reason I came back down again. Now at this point now I'm starting to think, like, what's going on with the situation? Is my pack too heavy? Is my boots too tight? Am I just too fatigued? So I grabbed a rope and I climbed halfway up there again. And next thing you know, I come crashing down. As I continue to keep climbing this rope and as I continue to keep crashing back down, the rest of my team has already finished. And now everybody is staring at me. Stuck with a simple situation. Do I continue to keep climbing or do I walk away from this situation? So I climb again. And each time that I climb, my hands, they get tight. Each time that I climb, my hands, they get blistered. Each time that I climb, I come crashing back down. At this moment right now, I realize that life is about to teach me a big lesson. That if I quit right now, I will betray the faith that my team has in me. That if I quit right now, I will burden the next man with my trouble, with my failure, with my struggle. At this moment right now, if I decide to quit, I will unknowingly adopt the mindset of quitting. What people don't realize is that each time that you quit, you invite the idea of quitting to the table. That every time that something gets hard, that spark, that itch, that urge of quitting comes out. And every action that you take on that idea, every time that you decide to quit, that urge, it becomes easier to scratch. But each time that you face some type of obstacle in your path, that urge, that itch, that gnawing feeling of quitting, it comes in. It becomes easier to use. And I don't know who needs to hear this, but you weren't born a quitter. You were the sperm that made it to the egg, and when your mother brought you into this world, you weren't a quitter yet. Even as a child, I know you weren't a quitter then. Because as you learn to walk, you will fall on your face and you will pick yourself back up and you will continue to keep moving forward. You weren't a quitter yet. People become quitters when they stop believing in themselves. They stop believing in themselves and they start believing in what other people think of them. They stop believing in the words that they say to themselves and they start believing in the words that others say for them. So when they're faced with a situation that they can't get over and they ain't got nobody else cheering for them, they start to come back and start to quit. Each time that you quit, you betray yourself. Each time that you quit, you betray the faith that others have in you. Each time that you quit, you betray the opportunity that life has given you. And at the end, you're left with maybes, ifs, and tries. And for those who are foolishly enough to put their trust in you, you betray that as well. And when faced with that very existence, like faced with that possibility that I could be the one that could let somebody down, like I could be the one who has to put the load on somebody else's back because I am too weak to be able to carry it, and I continue to climb despite how bad my hands hurt. I continue to climb despite how my forearms locked up. I continue to climb despite how many times I wanted to walk away from the situation. I just knew that there was a possibility that if I quit right now, I'm gonna quit when someone needs me the most. So I stayed. And for 2 hours, I stayed. And I continued to climb until I completed that exercise. Because one thing that I have realized is that it's bigger than me. It's bigger than me. That the people to my left and my right, they depend on me to carry my load. They depend on me to carry my task. They depend on me to complete my half of the job. And if I quit right now, I'm gonna forever be a quitter.
I know we've heard it before. Tough times build tough people. Hard times build hard people. However you want to spin it, one thing is for certain is that adversity will never be in your favor. Adversity is supposed to test you. Adversity is supposed to test the things that you should have been preparing for. So when you encounter a situation that's not in your favor, this is a test for you. This is the moment where you finally put the skills that you have been honing, the talents that you've been working towards, the hard work that you have been putting the time into. That is what the adversity is for. And if you are able to overcome it, you come out of that aversion. It's never supposed to be in your favor. And the sad part is that a lot of us, we will spend our lives avoiding adversity because it's hard. We will spend our time trying to avoid the adverse situation because we just don't like the way that it fits on us right now. We don't like the way that it's looking right now. We don't like how it's about to go right now because we know deep down that we're not ready for it. But I'll be the first one to tell you that you will never be successful. You will never be successful if you spend your time avoiding adversity. If every time that you're faced with an obstacle, every time that you're faced with some type of challenge and you avoid it, you can't get mad at the fact that you're not successful. You can't get mad at the fact that you're not a better version of yourself. You can't get mad at the fact that everyone else around you is moving forward in their careers, in their life, just becoming a better version. You can't get mad at them for that. Because every time that life gives you a lesson, you showing up absent. You don't want to take the test that life is trying to give you. You just want to put in the time, but then when it's time to test out, you don't want to work towards that. Adversity ain't supposed to be in your favor. You ever seen somebody hard, and as soon as they face with a situation, they come out soft? Like, you ever seen somebody come out different than how they went in? That's because the adversity beat them. And because the adversity beat them, they don't want to bounce back. They don't want to move forward. Adversity builds resiliency, and I don't think a lot of people understand is that resiliency is the thing after the adversity. You can't say that you bounce back from a situation if you're not moving forward. You can't say that you came from rock bottom if you still at rock bottom because you're afraid to move forward because you know life gonna knock you back down again. Let me rephrase that. You're afraid that life will knock you back down again. When you see somebody celebrating, it's because of the things that they overcame. That's why they're able to celebrate. I'm blessed to say that the leader that I am today, the man that I am today, the Marine that I am today, that came from adversity. That came from the trials and tribulations. That came from the obstacles that are not in my favor. So when it storms, I'm not worried. You ever seen somebody in the midst of chaos and they're calm? That's because they're used to it. They've overcame so many obstacles that were never in their favor that when something doesn't go wrong, they don't freak out, they don't trip. Adversity builds us for the version that we want to become. If you want to become a better version of yourself, you have to seek out challenges. You have to seek out obstacles. You have to be prepared to test yourself. Because if you're not, you will never become the version of yourself that you're supposed to be.